I'm glad you're here. Tiger Nation, we are under stress. And today we're going to talk about how to manage that stress, what stress is and how it impacts us, and some warning signs to let you know when your stress management technique might be not working for you. And then we'll finally give you some information on how to connect to counseling services, and we'll be done for the day. My name is Etandria Teo, and I am a counselor at St. Philip's College. I really love my job. I work with students who are stressed out all the time and give them goals and tools to manage their stress. If I asked you, when was the last time you felt stressed out? I'm pretty sure you would say, today. When we look at our world, there are so many things going on that impact us as individuals, as families, and as communities. From the worldwide pandemic to parenting, maybe experiencing a job loss, and the economic pressures that are going on with our current economy, maybe even experiencing racism or living in a mixed status household. The stressors are all around us. So, how do we manage it? That's what we're going to talk about today. First, let's start with the definition of stress. We can't fix anything until we know what it is. Simply put, stress is our body's reaction to a challenge or a demand. Stress has two parts. It is physical because it is how our body reacts. When you're stressed out, your heart rate increases, your breathing changes, your body becomes prepared to meet a challenge or a demand. But that challenge or demand, it really happens up here. It's mental. What might seem like a challenge to me might be easy for you. If you are an avid TikTok user, that's no worry. You know how to upload a video and make it happen. Me, I've never used it. That would be a challenge. I might feel stressed out. So again, we need to keep that in mind as we talk about stress, that it is both physical and mental. So when we're faced with these stressors, how do they come at us? How do they impact us? Well, it depends on the type of stress. It might be, a one-time situation, what we call episodic. It might be that one test, that one final, that one certification test you need for nursing. That only happens one time. But then we have stressors that are ongoing, whether it might be experiencing abuse, a really tough relationship, or systemic racism. These things keep happening and they happen from day to day and maybe even for years. There's a lot of talk out there about what's good stress. And, stress can be good. Stress lets our body know that something is going on in the world that is potentially dangerous. What does that look like? When we tell our child to not run in the street, we want them to be keenly aware that there are dangers in the street. And if they happen to be in the street and see a car coming, we want them to not wonder what to do. We want them to go into quick action and protect themselves. That is what stress can do. It can mobilize us to action. But when we experience more stress than our body is built to take on, typically our bodies are meant to take on 30 minutes or so of stress. Once that becomes a daily doses of stress, it can quickly lead to toxic stress where our body is overwhelmed by cortisol and adrenaline, and it really impacts our mood, our sleep, our relationships, and our mental health. So let's talk about how do our brains react to stress? Typically three ways. There's fight, flight, and freeze. What do I mean by fight? This is that superhero that it lives in all of us. We think when I'm faced with danger, I'm going to attack it. If a stranger comes into my house and is threatening my family, I'm going to take care of it. But research shows that most people unconsciously do not go straight into a fight stance. Instead, most people either flight, which means to run, or freeze. Again, all of these reactions are unconscious. Our brains sense danger and they just tell our body what to do. We don't make a decision, it just happens. So when we're thinking about fight, flight, and freeze, imagine when you're under stress, which of these things do you typically do? Do you run away from problems and maybe procrastinate? Do you sit in a classroom and not say anything and withdraw? Or when you feel stressed out, do you maybe have some problematic relationships because you feel like you have to constantly fight with people? We all react this way. And what we want to do is manage those reactions a little better. So we're going to spend the next few minutes talking about how to do that. I tell the students that I work with that the first thing that you need to do in order to manage stress is to know what causes your stress. We call those triggers. So, what are triggers? They could be big things, they could be small things, but typically they're things you're not even aware of. The best way to determine what your triggers are, in my opinion, is to journal. Research has shown that journaling is a great way to de-stress. Just talking about what happened during your day, what upset you, what do you want to do better the next day. Many times people think that journaling has to happen with a pen and paper. You have to lock your diary and keep it away at night. Not these days. In the digital age, we can use our cell phones, we can use a laptop, we can journal publicly in blogs, or we can keep it private in our notes app and even delete it. Even just writing it down is what matters the most. Tracking what you're journaling might help you figure out, yes, these are the things that seem to cause me the most stress. So now what are we going to do? Well, I'm going to introduce to you what we call the 4 A's of stress management. Here we go. So, these first 2 A's of stress management are avoid it and alter it. And what we're talking about here is that sometimes it's just better to change the situation if we can by avoiding the situation or altering the situation. What do we mean by that? So sometimes the easiest thing is the hardest thing to do, and that is to say no. Are you stressed out by having to cook dinner every night and you don't want to and it's causing a lot of stress in your household? Then don't. Figure out a different way to manage that by saying, hey, we're going to do takeout so many nights a week, or we're going to have meals that we all can prepare on our own. Sometimes it's as simple as avoiding those things that stress us out. If there are coworkers or colleagues or peers that really just, get on your nerves, sometimes just saying, I don't have it today, maybe I shouldn't interact with that person until I feel like I can manage that situation better, it might make the biggest difference. Also, we want to prioritize our to-do list. Sometimes when I look at my to-do list, it feels like it's a mile long. But what we can do is say, listen, by the end of the day, what is the one thing, or maybe the top 2 things that I want to accomplish today? And by avoiding the rest of the things on the to-do list until tomorrow, that might help us cope. We also have alter it. Altering the situation means that sometimes we might have to have a tough conversation with those around us. Is your partner not washing the dishes after you have already had a conversation about it? Telling them how you feel in a respectful way and asking them for help might really decrease the stress that you are feeling. Maybe it's about stating your limits and saying, listen, I have all this homework to do. I have to go to clinicals. I have to take care of the kids. I cannot plan your birthday party. It's just not in my scope. I will be there. I will bring you a gift. Sometimes we just have to be clear about our boundaries. So it's always nice to say, hey, let's be able to change the situation, but that's not always possible. Sometimes we have to alter ourselves. And we can do that with the third and fourth A by accepting the situation or adapting to it. So, what does accepting it look like? Sometimes this can be really hard. It might say, listen, it might look like someone in your family is sick. You don't have the power and control to change that, but you could talk to a friend and just let them know how you feel. A friend that is empathetic, a good listener, and who will support you. It might also mean forgiving those who have intentionally or unintentionally hurt you, not in order to dismiss what they did to you, but to give yourself some freedom from those feelings. And sometimes it's just a task that's super hard. It might be remote learning for you, who knows? And having a growth mindset can really help us through that. Growth mindset says, man, when I meet a challenge that I'm not that great at, I am going to practice, I'm going to give myself some grace, and I'm going to see how I can learn and grow from this situation. So those are all examples of accepting it. But we can also adapt. Adapt means that sometimes we just need to change our expectations. Listen, in this remote environment, you're doing things you may have never done before. And to have the same expectations for your grades, for how clean your household is, for being the perfect parent might not be realistic. And it's okay to change those expectations. You might also want to monitor your thoughts. And if you're having a string of negative thoughts, replacing it with a positive mantra or saying that really encourages you can be really, really helpful. And then in this time, in this day and age, reframing is a great technique because it allows us to say, hey, this situation is not how I wanted it to go, but I'm learning more about myself. I'm learning more about the people in my circle, and I am stretching myself in different ways, and I'm growing. So those are the 4 A's. Keep those in mind. Those are very, very important. But what else can you do? There are lots of things. Let's think back to what is stress. It is both physical and mental. So having stress management activities that work for you should encompass your entire body. So let's talk about physical. One technique you can use is when you feel stressed out, your body's, like you said, like we talked about earlier, breathing can be out of sync. To get your breathing back into sync, you can do a really quick technique. No one has to know that you're doing it, and it's called the square breath. What happens here is you draw a square in the air. Just like a square has 4 parts, for 4 seconds, you hold your breath, and then you intake air for 4 seconds, you hold your breath again, and then you exhale for 4 seconds. And so you can just draw that square, remembering to alternate between inhaling, holding your breath, exhaling, and holding your breath again, each time for 4 seconds. And you can do that in a round of 4 seconds. That will give your body a chance to regulate itself and your brain a chance to say, okay, we got this, we can do it. Exercise is also important. Don't forget that. Then we have our mental capabilities. You have strengths, use them. If you're a great organizer, use them when you're stressed out to really manage the tasks that you have before you. If you're a great connector, involve your friends in the situation and really find ways to be successful. There's also, everybody has a spiritual side that looks different for everyone, but the core issue is having hope. Research shows that having hope is the biggest factor in finding change in our lives. And so if your hope is a little low right now, if you have a faith tradition, maybe focusing on the activities that are related to that, or reading stories or thinking back in your own life when you overcame a great obstacle and that you can do it again this time. And we already kind of mentioned the last part of us, and that's being social. Sometimes we forget that we are social beings, and in a time of social distancing, it might seem hard to connect. But we want to make sure that however we connect to people, whether it's online, by phone, by video, that we are connecting to positive folks. Sometimes we're like, man, my stress technique, it is working well. And then other times we choose stress management techniques that don't work out so hot. What do I mean by that? Some people choose drinking or substance use, excessive shopping, um, excessive gaming. Anything I can think of can be done to excess. So, what are some warning signs that your stress technique is out of whack and it might need to be looked at, maybe reviewed, and maybe changed? Quickly, just think about, are you using that technique to veg out for a few minutes or to completely withdraw from the world? If it's the second one, then it might be time to talk to someone, a friend, a counselor, to get that technique back in check. What about after you engage in this activity? Do you feel a sense of regret or do you feel relaxed? Again, we don't want you to feel a sense of regret. And if that becomes the prevailing sense of how you feel, it might be time to talk to someone. What about thinking how your activity impacts others? Is it causing you comfort or is it hurting yourself or someone else? Again, we never want it to be the hurting you or hurting someone else. And so if any of those things are true for the ways that you have chosen to manage your stress, it might be time to talk to a friend or even a counselor. As a licensed professional counselor here at St. Philip's College, I am here to help. All you would need to do is give me a call at 210-486-2378 or send me an email at egatlin2 at alamo.edu and we can talk and go from there. It is so important during this time that we're all being challenged to do new things, that we manage our stress. Remember that big mind-body connection that we have. Employ those 4 A's of avoiding a situation, altering a situation, accepting it, or even adapting ourselves whenever you're faced with a challenge. And just remember, just because something is happening in your head doesn't mean it's not real. It's very real. Whether the threat seems, um, you know, um, whether the threat feels like it is right in front of your face or very far off, it's still causing you stress. So that's important. Finally, engage everything about you in order to create success. Your physical health, your mental health, your spiritual health, and your social well-being. They are all counting on you to manage your stress. If you need help, we're here for you. Go Tiger Nation.
Hello, my name is Mary Bozeman. I will be talking to you today about time management. If you lose it, regardless to how hard you try, you can't get it back. Time is a precious, precious commodity. They're in all the time zones that we have: Eastern, Central, Mountain, Pacific, Atlantic, and Hawaii time zone. Regardless of where you geographically are, you only have 24 hours in your time zone. Regardless of who you are, you cannot buy, change, or stop time. Have you ever wondered how some people seem to have enough time to do everything they want to do, whereas others are always pushing from task to task and never seem to finish anything? So the question is, what is time management and why do I need it? Time is limited, no matter how you slice it. There are 24 hours in a day. This applies to you, your classmate, your coworker, your manager, your former coworker, your coworker who seems to not to have enough time to complete what he or she has to do, and they're always asking you because they run out of time. Or your former coworker who consistently accomplished more than anyone else and got that promotion everyone was going for. If you want to move up in the ranks, you have to acknowledge the importance of finding a way to manage this limited resource. Why do I need time management? Because you can accomplish more with less effort. When you learn to take control of your time, you improve the ability to focus. And with this increased focus comes enhanced effectiveness because you don't lose momentum. You start to become and finish and start your task at the end of the day with nothing left over. Why do I need time management? It improves your decision making. Whether you rely on a time crunching technique or discover the power of time listing, you will soon find the nice side benefit of good time management skills is the ability to make good decisions. When you feel rushed or pressed for time, when you have to make a decision, you are more likely to jump to a conclusion without fully considering the options. This leads to poor decision making. Time management is the process of organizing and planning how to divide your time between specific activities. And if you notice the three words in red, organize and planning your time, ask yourself, in this remote world, is time now different? Has this precious commodity been turned sideways instead of upright? Do I have more time or less time to get things accomplished? Or are things just not getting accomplished because you do have more time or less time? Are tasks, assignments, to-do lists getting done? And the $1,000,000 question at the end of the day, what am I doing with my time? If I could give you a couple of tools, and you may already be doing these, just to help you use your time more wisely. Determine which one of your activities are fixed versus flexible, and I'll explain that a little later. Establish a routine. Exercise at the same time every day, or maybe meditation is your thing, or taking a walk. You want to establish a routine, because when you interject your other activities within that routine, you're better able to utilize your time. Break down into manageable segments. You break them down, not anyone else. And keep your eyes on the prize. What is the end goal? The fixed and the flexible times that I spoke about earlier, the fixed, not likely to change or fluctuate. Those are your classes. Your instructors have a time, start time, end time, and a date that classes are to be, that you're to be in class. Your work schedule has been set by your supervisor. Your campus activities that are done remotely have a start time and a finish time. And if you are attending any other activities, church or any other family activities, those may have a fixed time. Now, flexibility indicates it's easily bendable. Your sleeping habits, your study habits, your recreation, your personal time, your errands, your family time. And yes, since we're remotely, you still need to do laundry. So time management tips in this remote world that we have. Plan ahead. Turn your computer on. Make sure that you have connectivity. Don't try to multitask. As efficient as we think we are, you cannot give 100% to multiple activities at one time. Connect with your instructors early. In this remote world, there may be things that you don't understand or can't find because 95 days ago, maybe you just walked up to your instructor's office and asked him or her a question, but now you have to connect remotely. Set up your virtual office or your virtual classroom. You may have just small space. Designate a small area for your virtual office. Create a balance. When I talked about that routine, you can't be 100% school and think that your work is not going to suffer. You can't be 100% work and think that your school is not going to suffer. Create a balance. Find a designated time and stick to it. Stay patient with yourself. In this remote world, we are all making mistakes and we're all on a different learning curve. Be patient. Block out distractions. Turn your phone off. Turn your tablet off if it doesn't have anything to do with your studies. Choosing a designated space. Put up a sign. Take a piece of cardboard and write, "I'm in class right now," and put it outside your door or in front of that designated space so family will know that you're studying. Clean off your desktop. This is personal to me. When I was getting my MBA, I had so many things on my desktop. I had a time crunch and I went to turn in a paper. Now, there were at least 4 drafts of that paper on my desktop. Yeah, I turned in the one that wasn't complete. So clean off your desktop. Answer the I don't knows. Answer the I don't knows. If you don't know, ask for help. Once again, this is a learning curve for all of us. And get a good night's sleep. That's one of those flexible things that you're in control of. So when you go to sleep, turn the television off, turn the phone off, turn the tablet off, and let your mind relax. Keep your eye on the prize, your future, the 4-year university that you would transfer to. Whatever in the world you are going to do after you obtain this degree, whatever you're going to do after you finish that class, the the prerequisite for your other class. Keep your eyes on the prize, the end goal. If you need to contact me for questions concerning this time management, you can reach me via email at mbozeman4@alamo.edu. I thank you for giving me your precious commodity, your time. I thank you so very much. Have a wonderful day.